The next episode of The Commercial Break starts now.
Kelsey's here with us now. Thank you very much for joining us. We appreciate it.
Hi, Kelsey.
Hi, guys. Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. I was watching your Instagram this morning, and you had a lot of questions about vasectomies.
Oh, yeah. That's right.
Yeah,
you know
truly,
some.
I just wanted to let you know if you have any questions, I'm
that-
happy to answer
Oh
them
my
for
God,
you.
okay. Yeah. How long have you been vasectomied?
I've been vasectomized for almost 6 months.
Yeah, that's right.
Yes.
Wow,
Jeff,
okay.
my husband did it too, like a few
Okay.
months before that. So.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, my questions that I had for my boyfriend, because he's the first person I've ever been with who has had one, I did not know medically what that would do to the stuff that would be coming out of there. And so I was like, is this like a dust situation? Is it clear? I was wondering if it's like a white Gatorade sort of situation, you know? And so it's like, I do feel like it's still mostly normal. Is that what your experience has been as well? Okay.
Yeah. Now, I haven't tasted my own semen yet.
Sure,
but,
right,
there's a lot of life left to live.
Yeah.
And you get weird as you get older.
Yeah,
so.
we're going into the weekend. I don't know what you're into.
Yeah,
but,
I feel like it's 2024. Anything's a good game.
yes.
I will say that I know good guys who have had their prostate removed because of prostate cancer, and that is a dust situation. Like there ain't nothing coming out, but you still can, of course, achieve an orgasm.
Sure.
But with the vasectomy, I also had these same questions for my doctor too.
Yeah.
And I'm like, is it going to change the consistency or the color? And he's like, no, it doesn't change anything. You're just not going to have actual live
the
sperm. Swimmers a part of it. What I don't feel like they told me, and maybe you talked to Chad about this, what he didn't tell me, my urologist, was that a lot of men experience this like phantom pain. It's like you've had something amputated, and it can go on for a very long time. Now, my own only lasted for like 3 or 4 months, but I really was in pain for like a whole long time. So I call my doctor, and I'm like, hey, dude, you said this was like a painless thing. I'd have a few days. I put an ice pack on it. Well, 43% of men experience phantom pain like an amputee would. And I'm like an amputee would? You amputated my nuts, dude. What the fuck are you doing?
Yeah. So what did it feel like you were? Was it just like achy? Is it like
kicked in the balls.
Oh my God.
Kicked in the
sounds
balls.
horrible.
Yeah, it wasn't very pleasant. I got to be honest with you, but there is something different about the quality of the orgasm now that I'm all healed and stuff. I will say that it's better, and I don't know why that is. It is.
Do you think
I don't know why
there's,
that is
Because there's nothing to worry about.
Yeah, mentally, you're just a free bird coming, not worrying about anything.
Right.
I'm just a hot jizzing dude. It's probably because I don't have to pull out. That might be.
Yeah, that would probably be If you guys don't make merch that says "hot jizzin' dude," you are seriously missing out on money.
I know.
'Cause that's fantastic. But,
Your boyfriend is Chad Daniels, also a comedian. Why did he have a vasectomy?
And you guys have a podcast together, too.
yes, we have a podcast together called Pretend Problems. So he had gotten the vasectomy long before I was in the picture because he had 2 kids pretty young, and then he knew he was done. So he had a vasectomy for a while, and then I ended up getting an IUD because I just wanted to make my period go away. But now it's like 2 goalies on a soccer field with no other players. Like there's just like so much defense for no reason. It's just a lot going on. It's like a Swiss bank vault. So it's like a little unnecessary, but it's fine. He has a really funny joke, and he has a new Netflix special out. And so he talks about that, like, if I did somehow get pregnant, it would be the creepiest child on the planet, just like walking through its crib, like, hello. Like, it's so that's, we hope that there is not an accidental pregnancy, because I think we would be terrified of that child.
Right.
Yeah, if you get pregnant, Chad's got some questions. That's all.
That's in his act too.
questions.
He's like, when you go get a pregnancy test, why don't you get a paternity test too? Because
right.
that's not mine. Yeah.
Double it.
Yeah.
Fair enough. When did you start comedy? What was your What was your journey? I'm always interested to hear.
Yeah, so I started 15 years ago. I started when I was in college, and I had started to take a public speaking class because it was just a requirement of the major I was in. And, most kids were just trying to like get the grade and get the fuck out of there. And I kept taking all of my assignments and making them comedy skits, basically. To the point where I was like coming into class in costumes. Like I probably seemed like deeply unwell. Like I really looked unhinged, I think. But I don't know, it like hit this thing in me that I had never experienced. It was like, oh my God, I'm loving this so much. This is so fun. And so my professor pulled me aside one day and was like, you kind of remind me of Kristen Wiig. And like, this is really funny. And I just feel like you should do something with this. Like you're clearly having a great time and this is great. So anyway, I ended up going to the like monthly open mic at my college cafeteria, which is truly a fucking hellish way to start.
Oh my God.
A comedy. Because you're just like interrupting people's dinner. Like nobody's
Of course.
really interested.
No one gives a shit.
No, yeah.
Everyone's cynical.
You're performing to the
it's
sound
good
of like
practice.
clanking silverware. Yeah, it wasn't great. So
I feel like Fish got started the same way or something.
oh my God, that checks out.
That's true.
I
Yeah,
could
that
see
checks out.
But yeah, so I started there, and then I just feel like if it goes even marginally well the first time, you get hooked so fast. And then from there, it just kind of like snowballed. And I moved to Seattle after I graduated, and I was in that scene for a few years, and then moved to LA. And that's when I started opening for Jim Norton on tour. And so that was kind of
Jim's
like,
really funny.
He's
Yeah.
so funny. Yeah. That was kind of my first step in like really doing it for a living, and then kind of transitioned from that feature opening position to headlining. So yeah.
I love it.
So let me ask you a question. So we've talked to a lot of different comedians, and one's from New York, and one's from LA, and one's from Indiana. And so there's everyone's, I know that just like the fabric of the United States or anywhere around the world, different scenes, different people, different vibes, different jokes hit here or there. Like you're not going to tell Trump jokes in, the middle of San
Portland,
Antonio, Texas. Yeah, right. And so is there like, when you're in Seattle, what's the comedy vibe there? Because I think you're the first comedian we've had that actually spent time in Seattle doing comedy.
Interesting. Yeah, I know Seattle doesn't really have like I guess they have a club called Laughs, but they used to have one called the Comedy Underground, and that went under during COVID. So the closest one they have that to me is like a major large club is Tacoma Comedy Club, which is like an hour.
I think
south.
Joe Dombrowski.
Oh, Joe Dombrowski
He's up there.
It's such a fantastic club. It's like my home club. But I mean, I think coming up in Seattle during those years was a good time because you could get better. Like you could bomb and be bad and it didn't impact your career, right? It was
got it. Yeah.
Right,
because you kind of need a scene when you're starting out. You have to go on stage and just like figure out what's funny. And I think it's tough when people now go right to LA or right to New York because it's like, ooh, I don't know if you're like ready yet to have these big people see you when you're not in a position to like really get going yet. So
hone it.
I think most comics try to find a smaller scene first to get better in and then go to a bigger one.
Yeah, I think we had someone, a lot of comics from New York, but someone told us like New York is the hardest scene. Like if you're not good, you're going to figure it out real quick because everybody else is going to figure it out real quick, right? And then you're not going to be very welcomed anywhere else.
Yeah.
And when you went to LA, is that transition, like, is that really hard? Because LA also known for great comedy, right? You've got the Comedy Store out there and you've got the Improv and...
Yeah, they will let you know for sure as well if it's not going great. But I got so fortunate that my touring with Jim started within a few months of me moving to LA. So I had a very unusual experience. I got pretty lucky that I did not have to do like the open mic at the laundromat grind for years.
Yeah.
I was so fortunate that getting to go on tour with him, I started opening for him in like theaters. So I was, it's hard because you don't want to take a lot of risks on those shows, right?
Sure.
You're trying to just like do your absolute best. So I think there are like advantages and disadvantages, but I got to really get so many reps on these big stages and then go back to LA and like try to do smaller shows and work on new stuff there. But it was a really great opportunity for me.
Wow.
So two questions about that. So number one, that's very interesting because when you're opening for Jim Norton and he's doing these theaters, 1,000 seat, 2,000 seat, 3,000 seat, your job is not to. It's not like a formative job. You're not there to test out jokes and write a new hour. Mm-hmm. You're there to kill so that when Jim gets, or you're there to kill, or that you're there to bomb.
So he looks
Jim
better.
looks better. Right? This is not a test out my new set kind of thing. I got to give him my tightest 15 or 20 minutes or whatever it is, and then Jim's got to come out.
Yeah.
So that's very interesting. How did you connect with Jim? How did you go from Seattle to all of a sudden I'm opening up for Jim Norton?
Yeah, so when I moved to LA, he had tweeted that he was coming to LA to promote his new special, and he had just asked his followers what podcast should I do? And I had a really piddly little podcast at the time where I would interview other comics, and I had some of my listeners tweeting at me oh, try and get Jim on, and I was like, he's not going to do my show. He doesn't know me. This isn't some big podcast. But he had his business email listed on his account. And so somebody was like, oh, this is his email. You should just reach out. And I was like, oh, okay, fine. I have nothing to lose. And so I was one of however many comics trying to suckle at the power teat, threw my name out in the ring. And then he ended up getting back to me and was like, sure, I'd love to do your podcast. And
wow.
And then it went well. And I knew that he had women open for him in the past. I think Amy Schumer had opened for him for a few years. And so I just said, if you ever need an opener, I'd love to work with you. And he gave me a shot. He let me open for him for a weekend, and it went well. And then I went back to my receptionist job the next week.
Holy shit.
And his manager sent me an email with the rest of the dates for that year, as an offer. And so I was sobbing at my receptionist at my Devil Wears Prada job where I hated my boss. And so I got to put in my 2 weeks and piece the fuck out of there, and it was a was a really cool moment. So it's so this job is so weird that Jim Norton became my comedy fairy godmother. I mean, nobody would ever have assumed that, but he changed my life for sure.
Funny story for the listeners. That's also very similar to the story about how we got Kelsey on our podcast. We sent a message to her business and said, can we suckle off the teat of Kelsey's comedy megalord?
Can we suckle
or megalord tits, please? Yes.
Oh my God, so funny.
Yeah, I can imagine that's a fucking fantastic Friday when you're this. See you later. I'm opening for Jim Norton.
Yeah, it was huge. I remember one time we were taking maybe a private jet or something. We were flying from LA to Vegas for shows, and we had to drive by my old receptionist office to get there. And we were in nice car service, and I really was
good for you.
Big mistake.
Yeah, huge. It was such a good feeling. So that was nice. Yeah.
But if I'm your boss, I'm like, fuck yeah, you do it. Go live your best life. I mean, we'll find somebody else to answer the phone.
Yeah, I for sure was not a crucial part of their business. I was receptionist number 3, basically. Nobody, this man did not know much about me. And then I found out, this was maybe a year after I had left, I got brought up in some maybe work meeting, and the guy, the boss who I didn't like goes, oh yeah, the magician. I was like, okay, that's the impression I left on that man, is that I was the magician.
A magician.
A magician. That's too funny.
Yeah, he just was, a very classic, super high up in the business, and just,
didn't get it.
Completely clueless as to who works under him.
Yeah.
That seems so weird to me. As a guy who's owned many failing businesses, I've always seemed to know, including this one, I've always seemed to know who works for me. I always feel invested in them. So when I hear stories, because you hear them all the time, and there's famous people that we know where we hear stories about like kind of these rich, overlords who really are out of touch with anyone in the business.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that's because when you get to that level of power and money, it just doesn't matter anymore. You're so disconnected, you can't connect with people who don't live that kind of life. I just wonder, it eludes me. And I know people like this too. And I'm like, how do you not know this person?
I know. And I mean, to be fair to him, I'm sure he could tell that I also was not like looking to move up in the company. I had made it pretty clear, like, I'm a comedian, but I need to work during the day still. So maybe he just felt like this isn't somebody who I'm going to know forever.
Permanent.
But he was kind of like a tyrant with food in the office. He was like one of those people that if he's trying to eat better, like nobody around him can be having dessert.
Oh, fuck
And
that.
so like somebody had come back from Hawaii and brought like expensive chocolate covered macadamia nuts and like left them in the staff kitchen, and he just came and threw them in the trash.
No.
Geez.
Yeah, he had told me like, if you're the one who's ordering like chocolate for the staff kitchen, like stop doing that. We don't need that. Because that's like the directions that were given to me from the previous person. And so, and I could tell like people were just heartbroken. They needed their like mini Snickers to get through the day there.
I know, that's fucked up.
Yeah. So when I gave my 2 weeks, on the company card, I like ordered a like massive quantity of Halloween candy basically, and just like stocked the drawers full.
Good for you.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, I was like, bye, bitch.
Yeah,
Bye.
that's like one of our friends. They had kids, and they were like, "That's it. I'm not doing any more drugs. I'm getting clean. No more of the nose candy." And he was like,
here.
"For the respect of the children." And I was like, "You're so rude.
Come on,
You're
man.
so rude. I can't borrow your mirror for a few minutes because your kid might play with it."
Jeez, I know. We're
Fuckers.
fucking killjoys. I
I
have
know.
my crack pipe around here. It's Tuesday. Let's relax.
I like you. That's spicy. I like that. I like that you
Yeah,
ordered the
that's
Halloween
awesome.
candy. And I like that
Yeah.
I like the story about you dressing up in college, like
my
just
God.
showing up in costume
Yeah.
for the assignment.
Right.
It
For the
was-
public speaking.
That was so cuckoo. And it was like a summer course. And so it was me and like 30 foreign exchange students from Japan who like spoke very little English, and I think probably understood even less. And so for them, especially public speaking class, this was, I'm sure, so nerve-wracking. I'm trying to picture
Yeah.
me in Japan trying like what a nightmare. So I'm going up in like a full costume trying to do this funny like perform a eulogy of myself. It was this whole weird thing, and like I'm just getting crickets. I mean, these people staring at me have no idea what I'm saying, but that's how much I loved it. It was like so obvious that I had kind of like figured out what I wanted to do, because it was making me so happy. So
You wanted to do magic so
I
bad.
was like, this is my calling.
That's my calling. I'm going to be a
Listen.
magician.
Pulling a rabbit out of a hat, cool in any language. And it's,
That's right.
Hey, listen, there's no language. I actually, for some reason, first of all, my Instagram and TikTok algorithm is on point. I mean, it's so fucking fantastic. I
it's so
often get reels where there are 0 views.
Yeah.
And those are the golden ones where you're like, oh my God,
Really?
this person is literally crazy, and I'm the only person to ever see it, and I must screen record immediately.
oh my God, so funny.
But I get this. I was watching magic tricks so I could play magic tricks with my small children, right?
Yeah.
I always wanted to they love the magic.
Yeah,
you can like put it under your arm and they'll be like, where did it go? And I'm like, I don't know. Oh, there it is.
Oh my God, blow their mind, yeah.
But now I get all of these magicians doing their magic tricks.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm like, okay, some of these are interesting, some of them are not. But sometimes I'm really impressed. I think, wow, if I could do that
Yeah, no, there's some really good.
at a party, I would have had children
Magic
years
out
ago.
there.
Yeah, that's right. I would have had a wife years ago.
Just women throwing themselves at you. Yeah.
Nothing says big dick like the guy who can do a great card trick at the party.
At a casual, like, college kegger.
That's
Yeah.
right. But I don't even think like you dressing up for college assignments is the strangest thing that I've read about you. I think the strangest thing is that you hustle people for money because
Yeah.
you're an international foosball player. What
I
is
love
this?
this.
I didn't even know I know foosball.
Yeah,
I played
yeah.
it a lot. I'm from Chicago. Foosball's
Okay,
all
sure,
over the
yeah.
place. But tell us.
From Chicago.
I'm from Chicago. Foosball's like a thing up in Chicago. Everybody plays fucking
Everybody loves-
foosball.
everybody
Yeah.
loves foosball.
Cold climates, usually foosball thrives.
Yeah.
That makes
People are
sense.
in bars, people are indoors.
Yeah.
Yep.
Foosball and that little slidey game. What do they call that? Where it's like they have
Shuffleboard?
sawdust on the table.
Yeah.
It's like shuffleboard, but it's like it's not where you're using your hand, like, using a stick. It's where you're just using your hands and
I think that's
throwing
still
them down.
shuffleboard.
Oh, it's still
Yeah.
shuffleboard?
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay, shuffleboard junior.
So you can also you're thinking of the older people on the cruises pushing.
Or,
Played that one time.
Yeah, or like curling on the ice with those.
I love curling.
I
I
love
love
curling.
curling too.
Yeah, get me to the Winter Olympics now. We've done Summer Olympics, great, fantastic, loved it. I was all about it. Get me to the
too.
Winter Olympics and let me watch some curling. I love
Hell
those
yeah.
people. You could fully get fucking hammered and wasted and still do curling. There's no athleticism to it whatsoever.
It's so
You just have to
fun.
have a really good eye.
Yeah.
So tell us, how do you are you really like an international foosball
why.
champion?
Yes.
How and why? Tell us all about it.
Yeah, so my parents met playing in a professional foosball tournament.
No way.
Yeah.
So I literally would not exist if it weren't for foosball. It is like the
good for
foundation of my life. Good for foosball. And yeah, they had started to train me when I was like 2 years old, and I would like stand on a stool so I could see the top of the table, and they'd put their hands over
love
mine
it.
and teach me how to play. So I've played my entire life, and my like family and I would travel around and go to different tournaments and compete. So yeah, my mom is in the Foosball Hall of Fame, and it's crazy. So I mean, obviously the majority of people don't know that professional foosball even exists.
I had no
Yeah.
idea.
And then if you like picture who you think would be a professional foosball player, you're probably imagining a mullet. You're probably imagining like not a full set of teeth.
Yes.
You usually don't imagine like a young girl.
Yeah.
And so that was like my first tour a few years ago. I called it the Hustler Tour, and that ended up being the name of my special,
Yeah.
The Hustler. But after shows, I would find bars in the area that had foosball tables, and I would hustle people. So I would be like,
Nice.
oh my God, like, what is this chess? And I would play really terribly at first and kind of build their confidence up. And then I'd be like, okay, like, I think I've got the hang of it. So, like, we should play for money. And
I love
every
this.
guy would, like, put their whole wallet on the table or, like, immediately open Venmo. And then that's when I would, like, pull out my foosball grip glove and just, like, go to town. And it was very fun. I can't really...
Oh, my God.
that sounds like
yeah,
fun.
I can't really do it anymore because like enough people I think know now, especially if they're like
Yeah, the
in
secret's
the area,
out.
yeah, of the
Yeah.
comedy club. But for a while, it was like a fun little extra cash grab.
Yeah.
Do you have a foosball table in your condo apartment house?
No.
I
you
do have
got
one in my
to.
house. Yes.
Yeah.
Oh,
it's just
good
part
for
of you.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like a pretty mandatory thing.
Yeah.
I wish I had learned to do anything really well. You know what I'm saying? Like, I wish I had learned to do one thing really well in my
Have a
life.
specialty.
That's
Yeah,
such
just have a
funny
specialty.
sentence. I wish I had learned
Yeah.
how to do anything well. in my
Anything
life.
well.
Like,
I really do.
Not one thing. Can you?
I feel like I'm a
play?
human being full of half
There's still
thoughts
time
and
to
half.
chase magic.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there is. Of course.
There's still
Yes.
time, Brian.
At my advanced age, I feel like I don't know. What could I learn to do? What do old people do? I went to my mom's retirement home the other day, and they were doing karaoke. And
okay.
I thought to myself, this is what I have to look forward to.
Yes.
Karaoke.
We've
To
gotten
people
very into pickleball, and I feel like that is
Oh.
for the
People
olds
have.
for sure, and we really love it.
You know, I have some friends that are
Yeah.
posting about pickleball and how much they love it and how great it is. And I did not realize, and probably until about a year ago, that pickleball is taken very seriously
Oh, yeah.
in some circles. Like, there are professional pickleball tours that are sponsored.
Yeah.
And I see people like in Nantucket, like, $1 million prize for
Yeah.
the best doubles pickleball. And I'm like, $1 million prize? Of course, they're in Nantucket. So, what do you expect? But
Yeah.
that's crazy that it's on TV. It's
Oh,
on
yeah.
ESPN
It's big.
too. Yeah,
My dad's a big player out there at the retirement Like,
yeah, you think he's got a professional career coming up? And
I think he does.
Yeah,
in the senior tour.
do you know what I see on the TV that I think is very interesting that's now professional is the hacky sack game, the cornhole. Yeah,
cornhole.
Yeah, there's a professional tour for cornhole. Now, let me say
I love
something.
all of it.
You do not look like the person you would think of if you said professional foosball player, right? But when you watch cornhole, you will see the people you think of as cornhole players. Cornhole players. Yeah, it checks out. There's a lot of mullets and big beards.
Yeah.
So are you on? So first of all, where are you located? Like, where's home base? You don't have to give us your address, just somewhere near there.
So I live in Minneapolis now.
Oh, you live in Minneapolis.
Nice. My brother-in-law's up there. That's
Where
a great,
are you guys based out of?
Atlanta.
Atlanta. Okay, nice.
Yeah, so two polar opposites, literally.
Yeah.
No pun
Yeah,
intended.
it's a great
Delta hub.
city, though. It's so beautiful up there. I love visiting.
Yeah, it really is. I never ever thought I would live in Minnesota.
Yeah.
I had not even been here in my life until a couple years ago, but my boyfriend is from here originally.
Yeah.
And so we were long distance, and I was in Spokane at the time, where I'm from originally, and he was here, and it made more sense for me to be the one to move over. So yeah, and I moved in January, which was
Jesus.
Nice.
a real experience. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, you know, I'm from Chicago, and I've been to Minneapolis a few times, and I think all of those times during the winter, actually. You know, when people say Chicago is like a different kind of cold, it really is. It's especially if you're downtown. It's very windy. It's just bone-chillingly cold
Cuts
up
your
there.
skin.
But
Yeah.
it does. But Minneapolis, I think, also has a very similar type of cold. Like, it's very cold in Minneapolis.
Very cold.
I guess Spokane can get cold too, I would imagine, but not that kind of cold.
Yeah.
You must really like this guy.
I know. That's like everybody's like, damn, you must really love this motherfucker.
Yeah, you must be into this dude.
Yeah.
But they've got a good food scene up there and a great airport, too. It's easy to get to different cities. So if you're traveling and on tour or whatever,
Yeah, we're both on tour. And so I never thought I would be like horny for an airport, but I'm like horny for the Minneapolis airport. It's just like clean and big, and like everything's nonstop. It's just like, because if you're touring almost every week, the airport actually ends up becoming like your office, right? Like it's where you are spending a lot of time. So it's a really great airport. I never thought I would care so much about it. But
I agree.
It's a nice place to live for sure.
Yeah, how do you and Chad deal with that? Like, because I'm sure you're both out on tour a lot. Is that beneficial to the relationship? I could see how it might be. Like, hey, we're away from each other for a couple of days, and then we'll be back for a day or two, and then I don't like you anymore.
It's like, there's that quote, absence makes the heart grow fonder. But I think also, like, too much absence is not great for the relationship. And so we always are on this side of like, oh, I wish we could be around each other more than we are, but we try to make the best of it. We'll like FaceTime and watch a show together. We'll like press play at the same time or whatever. So it is like, I love that we're both comedians and we can talk about what is going on each weekend on the road, and the other person knows exactly what that means.
Yeah.
But
true.
But yeah, we like, I wish that our podcast was massive and we could just like tour here and there when we wanted, but then like just stay home, because we bought our dream house and it's like, oh fuck, well now we have to pay for the house we bought, and so we have to like leave and fly to like Milwaukee or wherever to then pay. But we really love being at home so much. I've become such a Minnesota old. Like I truly in my bones feel like I'm 75. I just like, I sit on my deck. I like shoo woodpeckers away from my house. Like it's gone downhill very quickly. I got old really fast.
I think there's something to be said about for nesting. I really do think there's something to be said for nesting.
I got a house this past year, and I'm a nester now.
Congratulations. It's like that. I had never had a house
I garden
before.
and do stuff. Yeah, I never had a house before either.
Yeah, it's the best. It really
all
does.
the things you never got to do.
Yeah. I'm out there weeding. I'm like, oh my God, look at me.
Exactly.
Crazy. Yeah.
When you connect with young people and they're like out there living their best life, like I was, right? Or you were, whoever it was.
Yeah.
You remember those days and you think back on them fondly, but we're were they really that great?
I'm good.
Very
Yeah.
hungover and
Been there-
terribly dangerous
been there, done
situations.
that. Yeah.
I know.
Probably ingesting stuff from drug dealers who could give a shit about
yeah.
your health or life.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like all this
Yeah.
stuff that you were doing. And it was great in that moment. But when you get to the part of your life, which I don't feel is that old, and
Yeah.
you go, there's something to watching a show and sitting here and just being silent and calm and quiet with a loved one or without a loved one or whatever the situation is. There is really something comforting about that, I find.
Mm-hmm.
Totally. Yeah. And Chad and I have both been fairly big drinkers in our life, but we both have not had a drink for almost 5 months now. And
All right.
thank you. And we don't, I mean, it's like, it's not like court ordered. So
Yeah.
Chad said,
Yeah.
it's like, it's not
Yeah.
court ordered. Like we can go back whenever, but we've both been just kind of trying to like give that a try. And it's been
Yeah.
interesting to like go to concerts sober, go to weddings sober, and do these things that forever you've just assumed like, well, I'm going to have some drinks there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And be like, okay, there are a couple moments, especially at a wedding where the dance floor starts and you're like, ooh, it is light outside and I am not fucking doing the wobble at 7 p.m. sober. So there are those moments, but then like it hits 11 p.m. and you see the people who are shit-faced.
Yes.
And you're
Right.
like, oh, I'm so glad I will not feel like that tomorrow.
Yeah.
Yes.
So,
I've been there for almost 7 years
Wow,
now.
congratulations.
Again, not court ordered, though it
Yeah.
could have been, but it wasn't. I beat him to the punch.
Yeah.
You're like, you know what? I quit.
You're this close.
You
I
can't
quit.
fire me. I quit.
Yeah.
Don't worry. Sir, Your Honor, I did it for myself. Thanks. Can we a recusal? What do you think? And I just did it honestly to stop smoking cigarettes. I've told this story on the show. To stop smoking cigarettes because that's just it was terrible. And I needed to stop, and I was getting too old to smoke cigarettes, and it wasn't cool anymore. You know, you look cool when you're 20 smoking a cigarette, but as you round your 30s into your mid 30s, you just look like the old guy smoking cigarettes. You go, what a fucking idiot. Why is he smoking cigarettes?
Right.
But I couldn't
One
quit
without the
when I
other.
was drinking because every time I picked up a drink, I wanted a cigarette and my judgment was gone. I was like, oh, fuck it, I'll smoke one more or two more. But then I was drinking every 6 nights a week. So,
Yeah.
But when I stopped, and I know that this is big now. You see this a lot on social media, and you hear a lot of people talking about this on podcasts and other places, how drinking really does kind of suck in a lot of ways. And I'm
Yeah.
not preaching to anybody, but I'm just saying, like, when you get sober from alcohol, all of a sudden things start to change. Like your perspective starts to change. And yeah, it's a little difficult when you go places and everybody's having that first 5 or 6 drinks.
Yes.
But by the time they get to number 12, you're like, fucking thank God I didn't
Yeah.
start drinking. Thank God.
Yes, it's so crazy. We both got the Aura rings. I don't know if you guys have seen these.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
I've had one. Yeah.
Yeah, and that has also been really fascinating because I had never done the Apple Watch or anything like that. And so to see how your sleep gets impacted, and like I'm same as you. It's like I'm not trying to vilify anybody who drinks. I don't care at all. But yeah, I listened to like the Huberman Lab podcast about alcohol, and it's crazy because when you grow up and you're in school, nobody like there isn't a day in health class where they're like, okay, so you're going to drink one day, but just so you know, like this is actually like this is why you will feel the way you feel. This is what a hangover is. This is what it does to your body.
Yeah, they should.
We just start like drinking Four Locos and we're like, all right, hope we don't die. But nobody, I mean, I'm 35 and I just found out like what actually happens in your body when you have alcohol. So that's kind of crazy to learn these things now, but it does help me to not want to, because it's just like, oh, it's like I feel like you want to care about your body the older you get.
Yeah.
Keep going too. Like it feels good. Week number 3, it feels great. Month number 3. By the time you get to a year, you're just a whole different animal. And by the way, I do not say I will never drink again. And on like New Year's Eve, I'll have a glass or 2 of champagne. Like I'm not like a teetotaler, right?
Yeah.
But 363 days a year, I just make the choice that with small fucking children, I do not need to be hungover or drunk. That's not what they need to see, and that's not how I need to feel. And then the other thing too is that, you know, in America, I feel our culture drives people to binge drink. You're drinking to get drunk.
Yes.
But my wife, who's partly Spanish, and we spend a lot of time in Spain, or we've spent a lot of time in Spain, It's a different animal.
It's just part of.
You have a glass of wine with lunch,
Yeah.
and then you go back to work, and you don't act like an idiot, and you don't drink to throw up on your own shoes. It's not everybody who drinks like that in the United States, but I feel like at a young age, it's so restricted from us and it's bad and don't do it, that by the time we get to it and we realize that it can make us, our inhibitions are low, our anxiety's gone, we can have a good time, but then it turns into something else altogether. It's like we just drink to get fucking drunk, which is fine, every once in a blue moon. But when you're doing it on a Tuesday because the news came on, like that's just not a great reason.
Yeah, I went to Washington State University, which is kind of like a known drinking school because it's just in the middle of the wheat fields and there's nothing else to do.
Yeah.
And I feel like it just became like common very quickly that you drank to black out. Like it wasn't, there was no like, oh, have a drink or two. It's like what you're saying. You would drink to the point where that was supposed to be part of the fun, is like the next day with your friends being like, oh my God, like what did I say?
Trying to piece together.
Oh, I remember you did this, but then I don't remember. Like, and that was just this normal thing. And I think back to my poor like 21-year-old brain where I'm like, oh my God, that was so bad for it to just be like shutting it down like that over and over. But you're so right. It's just, that was the culture and it still is. Yeah.
But you know what? There is hope, because I think that I read a report, and I think this was back in 23, that for the first time in history, alcohol sales were lower than they were the year before in the United States. So
really?
Yes, and I think that's because so many people like Huberman and a lot of folks, Theo Vaughn, everybody tells I was a period of my life that got so fucked up. It's so accessible to hear stories from people you may say, oh, I like that person, I like their opinion, I like their style or whatever. And then they tell these kind of war stories and share that after I cleaned it up, I feel so much better that people, maybe young people are, maybe I don't need to do that.
No, a lot of the really young people, I mean, my stepdaughters, they're not huge drinkers. My one doesn't even drink. She smokes weed, but, it's...
Alcohol may be the worst of all the drugs.
I know,
but
it's so crazy.
Thanks for showing up to the Dr. Phil show.
I know. Sometimes I feel bad. Sometimes I feel like I take things into like a self-help place without even meaning to.
No, I did it. It was my fault, not yours. It was me. I got on my preachy bullshit.
Cheers to you both, by the way.
What are you drinking?
That would be amazing if that was like straight moonshine this whole time. What?
Kelsey, you're on tour. How I see that you're going to be at Dania Point. We're also going to be at Dania Point.
We are.
We're really excited.
Really?
Dania Beach. Yeah, Dania Beach Improv. And actually, we had no idea that this place existed. And so we got we signed the contract or whatever. And Sam Morrill happened to come on the day that we did that. And I said, hey, so tell us about, ever been to Dania Beach Improv?
He's like,
he's like, it's fucking awesome. It's like, it's legendary. And I thought, oh, wow. Okay, there you go.
Yeah, I had surprisingly really fun shows there last year.
Oh, really?
And I don't think I have like a huge fan base there. So I think they probably like papered some of the room. But even the people who came out who were like, maybe didn't know me before, they were a great crowd, and it's like a really beautiful club. So yeah, it should be fun.
Okay, so KelseyCook.com is where you get tickets to see her upcoming shows on tour. Is Chad on tour too?
Chad is also on tour. We have some tour dates together for next year.
That's what I was going to ask.
Nice.
Why don't you have your manager put some tour dates? All both of you. That would be good.
We're excited. It'll be our first time doing something like that. But we did a local show together in Minneapolis last year where we called it a notebook rebuttal. We were on stage together and we took turns telling our jokes that we have about the other person. And then as soon as that joke was done, the other person got a chance to give their side of the story and kind of like defend themselves from getting made fun of. So we had a blast. And obviously now we have the podcast, Pretend Problems. And so next year we'll be doing some like live podcasts, live stand-up together, as well as our own individual tours.
Nice.
Well, I've heard the show. I think it's funny.
Oh, thank you.
I like Chad's comedy too. I'm a fan of both of yours. KelseyCook.com. Check out the podcast. Check out the live show. Check out the YouTube special on 800 Pound
really
Gorilla.
Funny.
Thank you. Yeah, it's on YouTube and now it's on Hulu and Disney Plus as well. So
it's on Disney Plus?
Which is so fun. I'm like,
Look at fucking you.
Oh, well, thank you. But it's so funny to me. I'm like, That's so weird that you can like watch me talk about eating ass for 3 minutes and then like play like the fox and the hound. I'm like, this is like not what I would have ever expected, but I'm happy.
I know. I'm immediately canceling my subscription to Disney Plus for my children. That's it.
I know. It's like mine should not pop up for kids, but
Kelsey, we really appreciate you coming with us today. You're welcome anytime. And tell Chad he can come on too if he wants to.
Thank you. It was so nice to meet you guys. Thanks. I could talk to you for 5 hours, I'm sure.
Yes.
Maybe next time, maybe a little bit longer. Thanks, Kelsey. We appreciate it.
Thanks, guys. Bye.